Your birthday rolls around and you don't say a word. Somebody at work catches it on a calendar, tries to sing, and you shut it down before they hit the second note. No cake photo, no countdown post the night before, no dinner reservation you've been dropping hints about for 3 weeks. You wake up, you go to work, you come home, you go to sleep. Same as Tuesday, because it is Tuesday. I'm Franklin, and if you're a Black Gen X adult who treats your born day like a regular day on the calendar, this one's for you. Not because something's off with you, because something specific happened, and it's worth naming out loud. Here's what I want to do. I want to walk backward from the behavior, the actual thing you do, which is nothing, and land on the reasons. And I want to skip the vague trauma talk. You didn't get quiet about your birthday because life is hard. You got quiet about it for reasons that lived inside your specific house at a specific time with specific people who had specific ideas about what a birthday even was. Let's start where it started, inside the house. There's a writer named Crystal Wilkinson who put this on paper better than I've seen anybody do it. She wrote about growing up in a black family where birthdays just weren't a whole thing. In her family, holy days got celebrated. Christmas, Easter, the days the church told you were sacred. But your birthday? Her aunt told her straight up that when she was coming up, a birthday was just like any other day. Nobody made a fuss, nobody baked, nobody sang, and the reason wasn't cold, the reason was practical. In a lot of those older black households, grandparents raised in the pre-1960 South, coming out of sharecropping, coming out of work from sunup economies, children were seen as economic contributors first. You had hands, you had chores, you had a role in keeping the household running. The idea that the day you were born was supposed to be a mini national holiday for your one specific self, that was somebody else's tradition. That was a TV tradition. So if your mama came up under a grandmama like that, she inherited the same shrug. And then she passed the shrug to you. Not because she didn't love you, because in her house, growing up, love didn't show up wearing a party hat. Love showed up as a plate of food, a roof, shoes that fit, and being told to sit down somewhere before you hurt yourself. That's the household layer. Now stack the money layer on top of it. Look at the numbers on black families with kids, historically. Look at the ones today. Recent U.S. Census American Community Survey data, pulled together by Black Demographics, shows black families still carrying a poverty rate that runs well above the country's overall rate, and it hits harder in households with children in them. Child Trends has laid out a similar pattern going back decades. So when we're talking about Black Gen X specifically, folks born between 1965 and 1980, per Britannica, a real chunk of you were kids in homes where extras weren't the plan. Rent was the plan. The light bill was the plan. Making the groceries stretch to Friday was the plan. A party for a 9-year-old with a rented character and goodie bags and a sheet cake from the bakery? That's a whole paycheck. That's the phone bill. That's shoes for the school year. When you understand that as an adult, you don't hold it against anybody. But when you were the kid, and the kid down the block had the Chuck E. Cheese joint with 20 people, and you had a card and a hug, something registered. It didn't register as, my family doesn't love me. It registered as, my day is not that kind of day. And you filed it. Now let me be careful here, because I'm not painting every Black Gen X childhood the same. Some of y'all had the parties. Some of y'all had the roller rink rented out. Some of y'all had grandmama who baked from scratch and made it feel like Buckingham Palace. I'm not telling you your story. I'm telling you one story that a lot of you are going to recognize. And if it wasn't your house, keep listening anyway, because the next layer applies to you too. The next layer is being Gen X. Pew Research called Gen X America's neglected middle child. That's their language, not mine. Britannica calls Gen X the baby bust, a smaller generation squeezed between the boomers, who are massive, and the millennials, who are also massive. Every cultural conversation, every marketing, budget, every trend piece, every generation in crisis headline, it skips over you. It jumps from the boomers straight to the millennials, like you were a commercial break. So imagine growing up as a generation that the country itself treats like it forgot you existed. Then imagine, on top of that, being Black Gen X, a smaller slice of an already overlooked cohort, aging in a country that pays more attention to your kids' generation than to yours. There's a psychological posture that comes from that. Call it a quiet stance, where you stopped waiting for anybody to notice. You quit expecting the room to turn toward you. You built a whole way of moving around, not needing the spotlight, because the spotlight was never coming anyway. And a birthday, if you strip it down, is a spotlight. It is a day where you are supposed to stand there and let people look at you and hand you things. If your whole life has been built around not needing that, why would you suddenly want it on October the whatever? You wouldn't, and you don't. So you don't ask for it. Now let's get into what psychology actually says about people who move like this. Because it's easy to hear all of that and think, oh, so I'm damaged. Nah, slow down. There's more to it than that. There's a writer named Mario Ferreira who published on this, the psychology of people who don't like celebrating their birthday. He talks about something called negative core schemas. Fancy term, simple idea. A core schema is just a belief you carry around underneath your thoughts that you didn't sit down and choose. It runs in the background. And a negative core schema on this topic sounds something like, my existence isn't the kind of thing you throw a party for. You'd never say that out loud. You might not even know it's in there, but it steers you. When somebody says, what you doing for your birthday? And your first move is to wave it off, that's the schema talking. He also references Beck's cognitive triad, which is a way psychologists look at how depression works. Basically, your view of yourself, your view of the world, and your view of the future all start reflecting each other, and a birthday becomes a mirror. Once a year, the calendar walks up to you and says, here's a whole day about you. And if the schema underneath is, I'm not a fuss-worthy person, the mirror is uncomfortable. So you cover it. You throw a sheet over it. You go to work. Then there's a piece over at Thrive that connects it to learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is what happens when you try and it doesn't land, and you try again and it doesn't land, and eventually your brain goes, all right, we're going to stop trying, because trying costs us and it doesn't pay. On a birthday, that shows up like this. As a kid, maybe you were hyped. Maybe you told everybody at school. Maybe you woke up early. Maybe you waited for the day to feel special and it just felt like Tuesday. And then it did that again the next year and the next. And eventually, without any big dramatic moment, your brain quietly filed birthdays under days we do not get excited about. And you stopped asking. You stopped hinting. You stopped hoping. And now you're 40-something and you don't understand why other people are jumping up and down about their own birthdays, because your system genuinely does not compute the excitement. Call it adaptation. Your brain protected you from a small yearly disappointment by turning the volume down on the whole event. That's actually a smart move for a nervous system to make. It just has a cost. The cost is that the day never gets to be a day again. Before I keep going, I've been working on something on the side, a book called Psychology of Black Gen X Men. It gets into the stuff that got wired into you young and what it's doing to you now, the patterns you can't quite explain about yourself. Links in the description if you want to look. And to everyone watching and sharing this stuff, genuinely, thank you. Now let's talk about a piece of this that doesn't get said enough. A lot of you don't hate your birthday. You just don't want the fake version of it. There's some good writing over at Expert Editor about people who downplay their birthdays. One of the things they point out is that when you get older, a birthday turns into a thing called temporal self-comparison. You end up standing at the door of a new year and measuring yourself against the version of you from last year, from 10 years ago, from the you that a younger you thought you'd be by now. Some of that math works out, some of it doesn't. And nobody wants to do that math with a paper crown on. They also point out that a lot of adults who downplay the day are dodging the scripted ritual, meaning the performance. The forced dinner where 6 people who don't really know each other sit at a long table and pretend. The obligatory happy birthday text from somebody who hasn't called you since last year's obligatory happy birthday text. The coworker singing at your desk while you're on a deadline. It's hollow. And Black Gen X in particular, y'all got a nose for hollow. You can smell a performance from across the room. You spent your whole adult lives cutting fake stuff out of your circle. Why would you invite it back one day a year and put candles on it? AQR International, which does psychology research, put out a piece that flips this whole conversation on its head. Their read is that people who don't publicly celebrate their birthday often have stronger internal validation, meaning you don't need the room to announce that you exist. You already know. You handle it internally. You might treat yourself. You might sit with your own thoughts. You might call one person or nobody, but you don't need a Facebook post from your cousin to confirm you made it another year. You knew you made it. You were there for all of it. That's a real thing. That's a legitimate psychological profile. Some folks run on external validation and some folks run on internal. And if you're running internal, a public birthday feels like being asked to prove something you already know. It's like somebody asking you to prove you can read. You just can. You don't need to demonstrate. Now here's where I want to be honest with you, because this channel doesn't do the fake uplift thing. Not every part of this is neutral. Some of it is protection that hardened into avoidance, and those two are worth telling apart. There's a group called Peachy Counseling that pulled together data on Gen X and mental health. They cite Statistics Canada showing that about 1 in 4 Gen X adults report chronic depression symptoms, and that number climbed about 40% since 2019. They also point out, using data referencing CAMH, that Gen X is roughly 3 times less likely than millennials to actually seek out mental health care. The move a lot of Gen X makes instead is what they call handling it quietly, self-medicating, riding it out, not making it anybody else's problem. Now that data's from Canada, not the US. I'm going to tell you that straight because I said I would. But the posture it describes is one a lot of American Gen X will recognize instantly. Handle it. Don't burden folks. Don't make a scene. Keep it moving. And what does that posture do to a birthday? It kills it. Because a birthday, done full, is basically the opposite of handling it quietly. A birthday is a whole day of, look at me, notice me, do something for me, make a fuss. If your entire adult operating system is built around not making a fuss and not being a burden, a birthday becomes a violation of your own rules. So you skip it, out of policy, more than anything else. And here's the piece I want you to sit with. Some of that policy served you. It got you through a career. It got you through raising kids. It got you through funerals, layoffs, breakups, health scares, all the stuff you swallowed and processed alone because that's how you were built. That toughness is real. It's a skill, plain and simple. But every skill has a shadow. And the shadow of, I don't need a fuss, can quietly turn into, I don't let anybody in enough to give me one. Those are cousins, not twins. And after a while, you can't always tell which room you're standing in. So let me leave you with something practical, because I'm not here to psychoanalyze you into a corner. If your birthday feels like a normal day and that genuinely works for you, you feel steady, you feel like yourself, you don't feel a pinch when the day comes and goes, then leave it alone. That's your rhythm. Don't let some article tell you you're supposed to want streamers. But if your birthday feels like a normal day and there's a small pinch, a little thing under your ribs when nobody remembers, or a little thing under your ribs when they do and it feels off, pay attention to that pinch. Treat it like information. That's the part of you that maybe never got the day it should have had when you were 7, still standing there in the corner, hand raised, waiting to be called on. You don't have to throw a party. You don't have to post anything. You don't owe anybody a performance, but you might owe that 7-year-old version of you something small, a slice of something, an hour with your feet up, a phone call to the one person who actually sees you, a walk, a meal you don't have to cook, something that says, quietly, I see me even if nobody else remembered. That's the internal validation piece. That's a nod. Nods count. Because here's the thing about being called the forgotten generation. The country might have forgotten you. The marketers definitely forgot you. The generational think pieces skip you. Fine. But you don't have to forget you. You're the one person in the room who has to remember. And a birthday, stripped of all the fake stuff, the singing coworkers, the group text, the reservations, the paper crown, a birthday is just a moment where you're allowed to remember yourself on purpose. Take the moment, or don't. But know the difference between not needing it and not letting yourself have it. Those two things look identical from the outside. From the inside, they feel completely different, and you're the only one who knows which one you're doing. That's the whole point of walking any of this back. Not to make you feel bad about a quiet birthday, to make sure the quiet is yours, chosen, not inherited. Because there's a version of this where you skip your birthday because your grandmama's grandmama had to skip hers to work the field, and that chain never broke, and it just kept getting handed down through the generations wearing different clothes. You can be the one who looks at that chain, understands it, respects it, and then decides for yourself what you want the day to be. Big, small, nothing at all, just yours. One more thing before I let you go, because I don't want you to leave with the wrong takeaway. If somebody in your life makes a fuss about their own birthday, your partner, your kid, your friend who books the whole restaurant every October, don't roll your eyes at them. Don't call them extra. Don't act like your quiet way is the mature way and their loud way is the childish way. It's just a different wiring, running off a different childhood, in a different house, with different rules. Their party doesn't threaten your quiet. Your quiet doesn't judge their party. Let people have their day the way they want it, and take yours the way you want it. That's the grown move. Quick thing before I go. Psychology of Black Gen X men came out of doing this channel and realizing all these topics connect into one bigger story about how you got built. So to everyone who was able to get it, or anyone thinking about it, thank you for supporting the channel. Genuinely. It's in the description if you want to check it out. All right now. There's another one right there on the screen. Go on and tap it.